Welcome to the advent of AI. I'm your host, Paul Drake. I'm excited to be joined today by Kyle Geoghan. Kyle has been at the AI game now for a couple of years, and we're going to do something interesting with this episode. The topic of this episode today is how can AI answer my clients' questions? And we're going to talk a little bit about this particular subject because you hear a lot about AI bots being able to answer phone, AI bots being able to be a chatbot on your site to answer questions, which we're going to talk about some today. How does that actually work? How does that benefit? What are some of the problems that can solve for agencies? But then we're going to talk a little bit and just kind of riff about where's this going? What are kind of the changes we're going to see, not just for the insurance industry, but even beyond some of the advancements in AI? So Kyle, just give us a quick synopsis of what you do at Indem, and then we'll hop right into our subject at hand.
Sure thing. So Indem is a Gen AI agents platform built for insurance. So you can build chatbots for websites, you can build email-based AI agents and voice-based AI agents that you can call. And you build it around the workflows and the essential value chain activities of your agency, MGA, or carrier. So it's answering questions, it's generating quotes, it's going through service workflows. It's really a new access point for all the insurance communications that happen every day across the industry.
So the topic at hand is how can AI answer my clients' questions? And we're going to dive a little bit deeper to help kind of explain how this works. Because look, if you're an agency owner and you spent a significant amount of time putting together standard operating procedures, or you have put together a clean AMS with all your data in there, or you spend a lot of time kind of establishing core processes and documentation, how is AI able to understand that and answer questions? So let's start first though. What does the world look like for agencies before AI? Let's just touch on that briefly. Agencies are having their customers are calling, they're asking questions about their policies, they're asking questions about their renewal dates. What does the world look like before AI? And then how exactly then we'll transition to how exactly is AI able to answer some of these questions on behalf of an agency for their customers?
Sure. And I'm a third generation insurance agent, actually. So we can even start a little bit further back.
So let's go way back.
Yeah. So my grandfather, right? It's like 1957, he starts his agency and you basically walked in. Like you could call him. A lot of people sent mail and you'd have to send applications back and forth via mail to get your coverage, right? And so, that's the first iteration of at least the American small insurance agency operating model, right? It's he used to say he did more business at the Lamplighter, which was the local pub, but everybody would come in, their boat, their business, and their home, right? Then my father and two uncles joined the agency in the 80s, and they focused on niche commercial across the country. And first it was phone and fax, right? And then late 90s, email started to come in. And so I'd say, pre-AI and the last 20, 25 years, it's all phone and email, right? Like that's the large majority of communications. And that's okay. People do love to talk to their insurance agents, especially when they have a lot of questions. But there's a lot of time where somebody wants a question answered and it's off hours or somebody's on vacation. And so that question sits in an email inbox or in a missed phone call, right? And so that's one of the challenges that AI immediately solves. If it's a basic repetitive question that a lot of your customers are asking, you can give them immediate access now.
I remember at my last company, this was one of the challenges we had, and this was prior to AI, is, okay, we want to be able to be responsive to our customers. We had a small team and there were some repetitive questions, but it required for someone to be standing by with the phone nearby, or it was a web-enabled phone, so they'd get a phone call into their computer and they'd have to stop what they're doing to answer the phone and answer the questions of the customers. So now we're talking about the fact that AI can do that for you, and I brought on some folks already. In subsequent podcast episodes we'll be talking about phone-enabled systems. But how is it that AI is able to actually know things about your business? How is it if I'm an agency owner? Okay, so ChatGPT can answer questions about history, or it can answer all these questions about all these other topics, but how does it know about my business? How does it know to answer the questions? And what kind of questions can AI answer for me, on behalf of me, for my customers?
Sure. So there's a few ways to build up an AI that knows about your business and responds as if it's a team member of your business. So the first thing you start to do is build a job description. And it's not as if you're hiring like a full individual human to do many things, but what you're doing is hiring for specific use cases, specific sets of questions, whether it's sales or service or billing. And you can get up to 30% of the questions your customers are answering just answerable via saving facts, 3 sentences or less, question and answer. And so one way to train your AI is give it a job description and start to take your standard operating procedures and set those facts out for the AI to be able to use when your customer asks that question.
This is so cool, and this takes me back to the moment that I had this aha moment about AI, which is we were training entry level employees how to do a lot of work, and I was creating these very clear standard operating procedures. Okay, if this happens, you do this,
Yep.
and I was writing it as a set of instructions. And you're saying that the way you can train an AI to answer questions is you give it a set of instructions. If someone asks you about this, say this. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly it. And so we've gotten really good at scanning marketing materials, operating procedures, websites, and pulling facts and saying, here you go, customer. Here's the first set of facts, right? So that's one way. And then another way is you can actually allow a human in the loop. So AI is talking to your customer, but you don't have the answer logged, or it's a complex question, you want a human. So then you ping the human, say, hey, do you want to join in a live chat or get on a phone? And what we do is suggest a response via the AI agent to your team now, right? And so if it's your best team member, maybe they're not using the suggested responses, but we're actually going to train it based on what they say. And if it's somebody who you've just onboarded, well, now they've got a suggested response from the expert, right? So it hits both sides. You can start to train your model, but you can also bring in new team members and they can have the highest quality suggested response right there for them.
That was one of the things that a lot of people asked me about initially when I first started getting into this. Is okay, can AI get better? Can it learn my business and get smarter? And what you're saying is that as you involve humans in the loop, the best employees, they can help train by the way that they do their work. The AI can be trained based off of that. It's like having an entry level employee sitting there with the pro, with the veteran, listening and learning to how they would handle particular situations and just taking meticulous notes to update their instructions so that next time something comes in the door, they know how to answer that in a more effective manner. This is a tremendous asset for insurance agencies. Where do you see this? Where do you see this evolving? This type of technology. How do you obviously insurance agencies? There's still a lot of them that are dealing with a lot of. I don't know if they're dealing with fax. Maybe some are receiving fax requests from customers.
Sure they are.
I'm sure there's somebody out there, but for sure, phone calls and emails. Where is this going? Like, how is this gonna, how is this going to evolve so that you have those that are kind of latent and, and laggards that are taking a while to adopt new technology to those that are now adopting this technology? Is this going to be able to do all of my customer service for my agency? How does this evolve?
Yeah, so we're a long ways away from doing all of the customer service, but it is evolving to take a larger percentage of it over time. And so like one of the things we're doing is plugging in via integration to agency management systems and policy administration systems. And so then we're able to manage those workflows people are asking for that need dynamic data. So that's one of the ways it's evolving. Another way it's evolving now is you've got a lot of experts who've been in the industry 30 years or longer that are retiring. And so you're starting to perpetuate that knowledge by building it into your AI platform and saving it, right? And you can use it in other places. That standard operating procedure is best written by the expert. And so yes, the AI's got it, but the more of that you have, the more your business is resilient, right? It's got the best of it saved. And one of the things about this is you start to see the divisions of the company, so the billing team, the service team, and the sales team, building their AI around how they do business, right? And so that's evolving now and increasingly more important to those different value chain segments. What I think is going to come is each of us is going to start training our own AIs, right? So it's going to support us individually, represent our own voice. I'm not sure exactly when that's coming, but it's definitely on the mind, and I think it's coming.
I think this is where we'll take a slight tangent and discuss this a little bit, because this has been, to me, one of the desires I have from AI. One is because I'm a space cadet and I forget things all the time. And I want something that can remember the context that, I have a particular conversation. There's something that I need to remember. I would love to have an AI, kind of like we have these media note takers with me, capturing a lot of this information and then advising me or informing me based off of what kind of data it's been capturing. And then we talked about this prior to starting the recording, but I think this is what's really interesting about AI is its ability to educate as well. Like you mentioned this, its ability to educate and provide you, because it's been trained on so much and these models have been trained on so much information. It's really amazing to what extent that it can actually break down concepts and educate people at different levels of comprehensibility. It's insane. It's an incredible application of AI. And like I keep talking about in these podcast episodes, if AI knows what it knows out of the box, but then it can be trained additionally to a particular context of a business. If it's your business and it's trained on your standard operating procedures, it's incredibly effective. Or if as individuals we have it trained on what it is that we do and what is our role and what are we talking about in meetings and what are we doing, it can be truly like an executive assistant of executive assistants to inform us and to educate us along the way. I don't know. I don't know if that's kind of something you see as well.
I mean, I'm super excited about education as a use case for generative AI too. I think that it's transformational in the same way the internet has been, and Wikipedia is just one very important part of the web that was really important to me as I educated myself growing up. Now you just ask questions and you get answers. And I like to read old science and history books. So like, who's the person that founded a different, scientific practice, right? And so you can get amazing information from just searching ChatGPT, for example, really any of the capable large language models. There's a few of them out there now between Gemini and Claude. And we talked a little bit about reasoning models. So DeepSeek's interesting, but the way to create a reasoning AI is the most interesting thing that's happened recently, in my opinion, because what you're doing is asking the AI, which is already relatively capable, to look at its response and to build on it, right, over and over again, to give you a really well thought out response. And you could do things in the past, just when GPT-4 was launched, like get a quote from Catherine the Great on a book that was written by Rousseau or someone.
Yeah.
And that's the only way to do that, right, is to use these AI models. But now they'll search the internet, right? And I don't know if you've tried any of the deep research reporting, but you can end up with a 30-page report with 100 citations. There's just almost an endless set of things that are in the education bucket that these generative AI systems enable.
Here's one thing I struggle with, because there is, to some extent, we know, and those who are producers understand this. People value what they pay for, right? You value what you pay for, whether it be your money or your time. If information becomes so easily available, and I don't have to do a lot of research to obtain a particular piece of information, how valuable is that to me? And how much am I actually developing? How much are humans developing cognitively when information is so easily available? And there's a process in the journey of getting to that information doesn't engage them as much as they would have had they gone through a more manual research. Of course, you could say that about when the internet came around as well.
Well,
I'm very curious. Yeah.
Say that about the printing press, right? And they did say that about the printing press, right? They basically said, these cheap books are going to flood the market and no one's going to care. And what it actually did was create a new foundation for people to get more capable and more intelligent, right? And maybe more intelligent isn't the right word, but more knowledgeable.
Yes.
And so the internet's done the same thing. And, we've experienced a lot of this ourselves. We don't remember phone numbers anymore. They're saved in our phone, right? That's not a capability that I miss, right? Yeah. And so it is true that it's maybe my kind of short-term numbers-based memory would be better if I had to keep 100 or more phone numbers in my brain, but I don't. And so there's space for me to do something different with that. I think generative AI is going to have some form of, loss compared to what we did in the past, but the gains are going to be far outweighed, in my opinion.
And to bring this all back around, I'm very curious to see in 10, 15 years what the insurance agency is going to look like. Like, what is this going to look like when you have AI handling so much of what is equivalent to remembering phone numbers, right? Answering those basic questions, even getting quotes for online. What is the insurance agency going to look like? I think we see a tremendous amount of efficiencies, but how is insurance going to get smarter, more targeted, more accurate in underwriting? How is this going to change as AI gets smarter and smarter and smarter to be able to handle some of these larger challenges that the insurance industry has? This is why I named this podcast The Advent of AI, is because we're in a beginning of something truly incredible in an industry that really needs something incredible.
Yes.
And I think that as more and more agencies use tools like Indem, they're going to start to see incredible efficiencies that are going to free them up to do what? What are you going to be, if your team is freed up and you have 30, 40, 50, 60% of your time back, what is that going to free you up to do? And how is that going to change your trajectory? That's up to you to decide. But I think it's going to be really, really impactful as we start to see more folks adopting these technologies for their agency.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. And I don't think people need to fear it as much as there seems to be this kind of fear crossing around. Because if you're enthusiastic about it and you look for your own value proposition and you're continually building on that, this is just going to be a new foundation for you to leap farther, right? And so I think much like the other technology revolutions, you'll find more specialists. There'll be more ways to kind of create a unique space for yourself. And as you said, you'll get much more of your time back, and the drudgery is going to disappear, right? It's like the repetitive stuff. I always joke there's something in insurance everybody knows that is now solved, but it hasn't scaled yet. And that's you wait on hold for 10 minutes, you get in touch with the CSR, and you ask the same question 20 other people did that day, right?
Yes.
That information now is immediately accessible.
Amazing. Kyle, thank you so much for coming on. And thank you all for listening to the Advent of AI. We'll see you all later.
Thanks
Cheers.
for having me.